Hi, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started in just a moment. My name is Jeff Browning. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing at BarTender Software, and I'm really excited today to be joined by some of my leadership colleagues in the product management team, Dan Qualiana, our SVP of Product Management, and Dan Davidson, our Senior Product Manager for Product Management as well. We've got a great session today, and we've honestly been really excited to have the opportunity to talk with you and to share some really exciting news about a new product called BarTender Track and Trace. And so we're going to get into that. We've got a lot of great examples of how this product works and more details that we're going to get into shortly. But first off, a little bit of housekeeping. Wanted to let everybody know today we're getting our presentation started right now at the top of the hour. We still see some people coming in, but we're going to get going on this. We've got some great stuff to cover. Also, our presentation today will be in English. In addition, some good news. We're going to record this presentation, just so you know. It's going to be recorded, and you'll get a copy of this after the event. So feel free to take notes or just sit back and really, take it all in, and you'll be able to follow up with seeing the recording after we complete this today. And at the end, we're excited about getting questions from you. As you go through these webinars, often there's a lot of opportunities to say, gosh, I wish we could get back to that point somebody made or whatnot. So we're excited that, we're going to allow you to or encourage you guys to submit questions through Zoom. So at the end of this presentation, we'll take a handful of questions from folks, so be ready to present those. But otherwise, we're excited to get started. And without really any other delay, I'd like to turn it over to Dan Qualiana, our SVP of Product Management. Dan, why don't you kick us off today?
Excellent. Thanks so much, Jeff. As Jeff said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Thrilled to be able to have all of you here. We're here to talk about BarTender Track and Trace, and really, most everyone is familiar with BarTender, right? The world's most trusted labeling software. We print over 100 billion labels every single year. We have a very large customer base across the entire globe, 175 countries that are actively using this software. And as we're working through this, we really are dedicated towards delivering innovation out to all of you, our customers. Some of the things that we've really focused in on: how can we make sure that there are enhancements to simplify how you are using the software, to accelerate the value and the credibility of the labeling that's going on. And so what we have done, we've really worked to enhance the core product that we have. Some of these ways we've delivered this common template library that allows people to find an easy template to start with. We've made adding new printers and getting that set up much faster through our one driver that allows you to work across thousands of different drivers, and we kind of abstract that need away to be able to select each specific one. And this year alone, we have added over 1,000 new print models into the drivers supported through BarTender. We have the industry-leading breadth across the printing market to make this easier and more accurate for you to use. We also want to make sure that you can easily get access to the data that you have from your different systems and connect that in as you are doing this labeling. We also have made a number of fundamental changes on how we deliver software to all of you. This year, every quarter, we have delivered a new version of BarTender software. If you are a BarTender cloud user, every month we have delivered updates and enhancements to all of you. And we have reinforced and enhanced the performance, stability, and uptime of that cloud platform to be at 99.99% availability. And that is with dramatic growth as new customers continue to come on and expand their printing. You can see that the performance side of things, we've also put a very heavy focus on. We want to make sure that if customers are upgrading to newer versions, that they are getting enhanced and better performance, even with all the new and expanded capabilities that we have. And we have to meet the modern security standards. And so we are working very closely to make sure that we follow through with our ISO 27001, as well as SOC 1 and 2 that we have attained. Overall, as we look across the whole BarTender portfolio, you see dramatic enhancements in terms of the features, the functionality, the stability of what you're expecting from a provider. And really, how do we do this? Well, we don't do this all ourselves. We are partnering with people across the whole solution ecosystem. So we have customers across multiple verticals. And so we need to have partnerships across each of those verticals and different areas. So I mentioned earlier some of the back-end systems that might be your ERP or WMS, working closely with the print manufacturers so that we can make sure we are adding support to align with any new features or models that they are releasing. We are tied in very deeply with industry standard bodies so that we can make sure that we are the leaders to make sure we deliver and make it easy for you to follow through on any standards that are being deployed. And we want to help the solution deployment by working through our channel community. And really, as we work very closely with you, the customer. We have heard a lot of feedback. There is a lot of disruption going on in the market. The expectations of customers have matured and grown. And as you are running your operations, initially through BarTender, you are labeling things so that you can get visibility into those operations and those goods. But many of customers are really struggling with this. How do you know what your throughput is? How do you know if things are properly labeled? How do you know what you have received, what you have in inventory, what you are shipping and packing? Well, these are things that we as a company are very, very tightly focused in on as well. We want to help you get unstuck. We want to help be able to provide tracking that goes beyond the label to the good that it is attached to. When that label goes on that item, it gives it a digital identity that then can be used for traceability throughout your operations and even beyond your operations across the supply chain. I have a quick video that I want to show that really helps us focus in on some of these exciting areas that we're expanding into. Excellent. I am very excited to introduce to all of you BarTender Track and Trace. BarTender Track and Trace gives you the opportunity to be able to identify what you have within a given area, a given site, or across your overall operations. BarTender Track and Trace will help you be able to find the items that you are looking for quickly and immediately. Built on top of barcoding and RFID technology, we can allow you to be able to report and act with confidence and easily be able to deploy this lightweight, simple application with dramatic value in terms of how your operations are being run. BarTender Track and Trace today is used across thousands of different sites in multiple regions around the world. So whether it's an asset tracking facility used by FedEx, or it's a retail shop floor with a company like Perry Ellis or Falabella, and even some fashion brands, this solution today is providing value that can help you attain some of those key metrics that you need to improve your business. That 100% inventory accuracy that was shown in the video has been attained by some of our customers actively using this solution right now. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Dan Davidson. Dan's going to be diving deeper into the specifics of what BarTender Track and Trace is and how you can get the value you're looking for out of it.
Perfect. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. So as he said, I'm Dan Davidson. I'm the product manager for Track and Trace. So really excited to be here with you all today to kind of discuss, how Track and Trace works, what its benefit is, and how you can use it in your operations as well. So as we went through at the start, everyone knows BarTender. BarTender is your labeling software, and you use it already because something is important enough to label. So then really, what is that next step? If it's important enough to label, it's important enough to track. So really with BarTender Track and Trace, it is that natural evolution of the bartender ecosystem where we really want to pair the two together into one natural solution that gives you full insight into your inventory. So with BarTender, you're already designing your custom labels, you're printing RFID labels to affix the devices. So once those are out into your operations, you can add those items instantly into Track and Trace to be able to then track that life cycle through its process. So as we kind of talk through this a little bit, one of the big benefits is knowing exactly what you have. You're taking in a lot of inventory. Sometimes it's manual counting, sometimes it's tracked in a spreadsheet or however you may do it now. But it's very critical that you know exactly what you have at all times. That 100% accuracy is obviously extremely important to not over order, to lose items, to have people looking for things that are supposed to be somewhere but are something else. It just causes a lot of disruption when you don't exactly know what you have. So with Track and Trace, you can do these counts instantly in seconds. With RFID tags, you can scan a whole box of items instead of having to scan them individually to make sure the count's correct. You don't have any items in there that you shouldn't. Maybe there's an item that got put in there that shouldn't be. You can find that and pull it out. Again, giving you that insight and actionable insight to be able to make decisions quickly to make sure that accuracy is there. And ultimately, you can do these checks more often, you can do them faster, and you can do them with better accountability of what you're getting. So really, it's kind of knowing what you have, knowing all those details, and being confident in the results. That's really where Track and Trace can help out of the gate. Next, and kind of, conjunction with that is being able to find items. So what we've found is, okay, you're inventorying, you're blind checking in a lot of items. Okay, now you need to ship them out. So now you have somebody with a pick list going around grabbing items. Well, this can take a lot of time, especially if items are where they're supposed to be, or if you're in a large institution or large warehouse, it just takes a lot of time to find individual things. With RFID and Track and Trace, you can quickly search for those items. So they'll be assigned a location and zone within the system when you check in the item or when you receive it. And then you can use RFID and the Geiger counter, kind of shown in the video on the right, to quickly locate those items, to pinpoint it much faster than, say, having to look through boxes, looking through aisles. You can narrow down that search focus almost instantly to know that you're at least looking in the right place. And then obviously, as the colors change from red to green, you're getting closer, that kind of stoplight functionality, to have that support to know this is the item I need, this is the item that I should be picking. And so that, again, that accuracy to your item in your inventory is really where Track and Trace provides a lot of benefit. So it protects against potentially, ordering additional items if you can't find things, cuts down on man hours, obviously looking for things. This is supposed to help your operations with efficiency while providing that return on investment through either man hours or tight control of expenses to make sure you know what you have and where it is. With that, you're going to be taking in a lot of data through track and trace. Obviously, you're taking in your inventory, you're receiving, you're shipping. All that data is being collated within the system itself. And then you'll be able to kind of use the reporting tools within the system to look at items, their disposition. Is it still in the warehouse? Maybe it was damaged, maybe it was destroyed. So you have better insight into those individual items. You can create pick lists. You'll have item statistics for each EPC or code you scan. You can set KPIs that you can view at a glance once you log into the console. Really, it's taking your data that is yours to kind of package it in a way that makes more sense and that you can gain actionable insights through. The idea is you have all this information. Well, what do you do with it? Track and trace is really allowing you to say, I know what I need to do with it. I need to check on these items. I need to check where they are. I need to check, did we get them all? This is a much faster and much more accurate way to do that. Additionally, you can also export all these reports if you wanted to import them into other tools and systems. It really gives you your data at your fingerprints to be able to get that data to where it needs to go, along with the history of the item. So really taking everything you see holistically and giving you the option to improve your operations or make changes where you see you need to. So less work to get the data and more actionable insights by exporting the data. So those are some things you can do with the tool, but really it is built to fit your business. So we know RFID is getting more and more popular as the price point decreases to adopt it. So really track and trace is built to scale with that kind of methodology in place. You get your tracking within your four walls, so you can start small to kind of visualize out how it would work into your ecosystem. Maybe you have one area that has, some challenges or some inventory inconsistencies, and you want to see you can drive improvement through that. And then you can quickly expand throughout your other operations. It's built to be able to scale as you start small or start large. If you want to do that, we wouldn't discourage it, but it gives you those options in how you want to adopt both the solution and the hardware to make sure that your sites are covered. If you have multiple locations, you can go from one to many, and it gives you insight into all of those, in a hierarchy solution. If you're up at the top at like a global manager level, you could see all of those locations and the data associated with them. So it's really to meet you where you are currently and to help you grow into a solution that's going to provide your business with the most benefit. So from a feature perspective, track and trace actually does quite a bit. We talked about the inventory, assets, and items, being able to receive those with RFID, being able to find those, but you can also do inventory counts more often. We've talked to customers that they would like to do those inventory counts more often, but because it's a manual process or there's manual processes involved, they can't do them as much as they would like. And then you start losing pieces of information, especially if you're, say, doing them every quarter or, in some cases once a year. What's going on between those counts is a lot of impact on your business. So being able to do those more frequently with that level of accuracy and confidence eliminates the unknown and allows you to kind of make sure you're not missing things or searching for things needlessly. Additionally, pick list is a big portion of it as well. If you receive, a lot of times you ship out, making sure that when you ship out, you are grabbing the correct items that need to be within that order. And this goes into the guiding part of it as well with RFID. You can quickly search for those items on an individual level to make sure that those items contained in the ship out list are actually the ones you're pulling, and you can be confident that that will be the item that needs to go where it needs to go. Additionally, these items move around, right? I think everyone knows that. That's a big part of, losing items. Someone just picks something up, moves it, absentmindedly, doesn't even think about it, but then somebody needs to pick up that item. It's not where it needs to be at that point. So this allows you to find those quickly. But since we're also assigning these items to locations and zones, you're able to move and reallocate those items as you move through the workflow process. So if you have a number of steps between receiving and then shipping out, you can move those items within it. So say there's a check that needs to happen. Maybe it needs to get repackaged in a different area. You can move those along and as well as change their disposition as well. So say you get an item in and as you're moving it through, it gets damaged or it gets destroyed. You can mark that in to make sure that that particular item now is marked that way and it won't get shipped out as if it were a non-damaged item. So really it's providing a lot of flexibility and information to you to be able to make actionable steps to improve your business processes by giving you better visibility, accuracy, and ensuring that you know where your items are and have all the information to make those decisions at the click of a button. And with that, I will turn it back over to our Senior Director of Product Marketing, Jeff Browning, to talk about how track and trace can benefit all your businesses as well.
Great. Thanks, Dan. That was fantastic. I mean, it's really amazing, all of the different things that track and trace can do to help really bring order into what's typically a pretty chaotic situation for a lot of organizations. And kind of that leads me to the next point that as Dan Quilian had mentioned early on, we spend a lot of time talking with our customers, really trying to understand what the reality is. What are they going through in their operations day in and day out, where we can help them maybe address challenges that they see in front of them, sometimes challenges they don't always see in front of them as well, right? And one of the things that we've seen over and over again as we've talked to them about what happens beyond the label is that many are continuing to operate in ways that maybe they've always operated, but didn't fully realize the impact of how those systems maybe weren't optimized or weren't supporting them in a way that really helps them compete. And as Dan mentioned also, there's more and more pressure these days to be either more accurate, more precise, move faster, deal with, providing value to customers at a higher velocity so that you can continue to thrive in the markets that some of the customers we work with compete in. And some key things have come up over time that we keep seeing recurring. And first of all, it's, people are using shared spreadsheets maybe. They're out there doing things where, everyone has access to a shared file. But we've literally heard this multiple times where somebody's gone in and accidentally deleted maybe a row or critical information in that spreadsheet, which is the common tracker that I've heard as many as 65% of operations out there use today, right? And unfortunately, we've heard this happen where people then go out and procure new inventory that was unnecessary simply because of the lack of control, process, or just precision in their operations that could be easily addressed with something like track and trace. At the same time, we've heard people, using even more manual methods where it impacts customer satisfaction downstream. Someone might forget to update the inventory tracking tool at the same time, or spreadsheet or even a clipboard. I've heard clipboards as well. And what happens is somebody ships something out the door. It's the end of the day. They forget about it. They say, I'll update the inventory next day. They forget. And then somebody commits a new order to an even more significant customer, and they've got a problem. How do they solve that? They've committed more than they have, simply because they just overlooked it or because their process didn't really make it easy for them to keep track of these things accurately, knowing what they have at any given time. And we've even had situations where, and many of you out there, listening today have experienced this, where somebody new on the team takes something that's critical to your operations. It might be a tool that goes into a tool yard. It might be, a critical piece of machinery that's required for assembly processes, and they just simply don't know yet. They put it in the wrong place. And if anybody's been in some, complex environments, they absolutely know that if it's put in the wrong place, it can sometimes take days to find those items, and it can cause projects to slip. And we've even heard of those slips delay projects where companies now face penalties because they're overdue on getting that project done just because somebody couldn't find something easily in their environment. And so really, when we look at these rallies, these are easily remedied. They're remedied very quickly at a really surprisingly more affordable approach than people realize with something like track and trace. When you look at track and trace, it provides an opportunity to boost your operations really quickly at a low risk, with a really more reasonable, fee or cost than you might anticipate. And when you look at this, as Dan and Dan have both mentioned, you can receive items in seconds with 100% accuracy. the ability to receive those items or things that you bring into your environment with 100% accuracy has a dramatic impact from the start on how you're able to operate your business, whether it's finding things, whether it's making sure you deliver a higher level of service to your customers, you name it. This is a huge way to boost your operations when things come in the door. At the same time, inventory checks. One of the things that happen, and Dan Davidson, you mentioned this earlier as well, the more time that goes by without being able to do a reasonable inventory at really low cost and high speed, the more loss, the more kind of diffusion and obfuscation that happens in any environment. Things move around, things go out the door, things aren't accounted for. This creates significant impact on people's ability to know what they have or how to find it. Track and trace makes it easy to do this, literally much faster than people have been able to do that in the past. At the same time, locating items, we've heard customers say it's taken them days to find things, and using track and trace, it literally takes them minutes, right? We have situations where our customers are locating parts to keep planes in the air, keep service happening for their customers. And if you can't find it, it disrupts that flow and causes a problem for the whole business. So by being able to locate items, I've heard 60, 70, and even 80% faster than before helps keep your business moving, whether you're assembling parts and need those parts on demand, or delivering a service that requires a tool or piece of equipment you need on demand to deliver that service. At the same time, wasted spend. We've heard a number of people talk about wasted spend, how they actually purchased something just simply because they couldn't find it and they couldn't afford to slow their business down. And so by reducing spend, by knowing what you have, by knowing where it is, helping people find it quickly, reduced spend on unnecessary items drops significantly. This is the interesting point. We've heard of stories now where customers, if the parts or items that they're tracking, are expensive tools or pieces of equipment that they use to continue service for their customers, literally avoiding losing one of those things and avoiding that wasted spend has more than paid for the cost of a solution like track and trace for them. So it's a significant advantage just to help manage reducing costs and capital expenditures. And then finally, reporting quickly. Nobody, the last time I checked, really likes doing a lot of spreadsheet gymnastics, especially, under duress or under a rush or urgency for either reporting to management or even an audit or producing things for compliance. Track and trace provides dashboards and reporting, even reports that can be exported that you can do things with in other systems quickly to dramatically reduce the effort required so that you can get the data to the right people that need it and to report on your operations on demand. So really significantly changes the game in terms of how you operate your business. Now, one of the things that's been interesting, over the past couple months, we've been working very closely with a number of our valued reseller partners, some you probably already work with today. And as we've talked to them, to help them understand what track and trace does, so they're ready to help support our customers like you when it comes to procuring track and trace, getting it deployed, and putting it to use to help you realize some of these advantages and benefits. We've had an opportunity to talk to a number of different potential users and customers out there. And what's interesting is when you start to look at track and trace, it's really interesting the fact that really kind of there are no constraints or limitations to what you can potentially do when you start exploring how it can help streamline your operations. We've heard organizations that are keeping track of a fleet of tools or equipment, realizing that by deploying this quickly and easily, they can manage items when they go out of the building or move around the building to ensure that they know where they are, what they have at any given time. And when they're expensive pieces of equipment, it drives significant cost savings for them for not wasting spend or wasting time looking for things. At the same time, people that have different parts that they have to procure and ship out to customers, people are tracking other work in process assembly when some items come in the door and they need to think about how those get assembled, keeping the assembly line working and getting those packaged, picked, packed, and shipped out the door. These are all scenarios where we found people really begin to realize when they get their when they start thinking about how this can transform their operations from using just spreadsheets or even manual ledgers to being able to quickly scan items, know where they are, and keep business flowing. There's just really no end or no limit to what you can possibly do with track and trace when you think about how it can help you keep track of critical business items that your business depends on. So we're excited to see how more and more customers are going to begin embracing this and taking advantage of this capability. So one of the things exciting is we've shared today a lot of information about what track and trace is, how it works, some of the benefits, but really it's easy to get started. You may be able to identify a few areas here where maybe you're thinking my operations could be accelerated or loss could be reduced. We could save money, save time, serve our customers better. It's really easy to get started. For you, if you'd like to learn more, we can help you connect with a reseller to talk with them. A specialist that knows track and trace now can help you work through how it would apply in your unique business situation and how you could start basic and continue to grow how you use that in your environment. Or if you'd really like to get deeper into the product, we can help facilitate a demo. So we'd love to show you exactly how it works, get into more of the details of some of the features and functionality, because we're really excited. We believe track and trace, the time has come for this type of a solution for a lot of organizations that have been operating in ways that aren't as efficient as they could be. And we believe this is the solution to address those challenges head on and really transform the way you can do business to be more competitive and thrive in today's environment. At the end of this, we're going to be providing a quick survey. We'd really appreciate if you answer the questions on that, share your thoughts on that. And it's also an opportunity to let us know if you'd like us to connect you with a reseller to be able to talk more about this, as well as request a demo to learn more and see how track and trace works beyond what you've seen today. Now, with that, we really are thrilled to have had the opportunity to talk to you today. But here's the exciting part. We'd like to talk to you and answer a few questions if folks have had those. We've seen some get submitted, so thank you for that. But what I'd like to do right now is let's start it off. We actually have a couple we've already grabbed that have come in here. And I want to maybe pass this first one to you, Dan Qualiana. This is a great question. For customers out there that are have been using BarTender, have been using barcodes, they're getting a lot of value for those things because it's helping them organize things. But if they're not really familiar with RFID, it looks pretty easy. It looks pretty cool, but they're not really familiar with how. Could you share a little bit more about how that function works, how RFID labels get printed, and then how that scanning works, and what that feels like for an organization that begins to take advantage of this technology?
Absolutely. So anyone looking to transition or maybe augment what you're doing today with barcoding to RFID, what you would need is a simple barcode printer or encoder that supports RFID, and then tags that can work there. When using the RFID tags, you can still, in most cases, print on those, but there's an encoding piece where there's a unique serialization that happens. So you can then attach unique identity for each of those goods with that tag within the system. Once those are attached to those devices, the key difference that you have between barcodes and RFID is the speed and efficiency of scanning and reading that information. So imagine you are using a mobile handheld scanner. If you're scanning a barcode, you have to have visual line of sight and a certain distance to be able to scan each of those barcodes. RFID allows a broader range to kind of squeeze your trigger, scan those items, and you do not need that full direct line of sight to be able to see every individual one, but you can pull in a whole group at once. So for certain use cases, such as doing cycle counts, that can dramatically speed things up. It also can reduce some errors of a missed scan, and really efficiency-wise works much more effectively. We are working with some of the leading vendors who make these RFID readers, as well as the printers, to really kind of simplify this process and even kind of look at a solution in a box where here's a lightweight RFID encoder, here's your BarTender software to be able to print and encode those tags. Here is track and trace with a reader to then be able to simply work and deploy across a low-end type of ecosystem there.
Fantastic. Hey, thanks. That's great. Yeah, RFID is it's amazing. In fact, one thing I'd mention is, when people first see an RFID scan of a collection of products that could be in a box or in a pallet somewhere, they're kind of like shocked because, wait, did it already do it? Like that was so fast, right? And this technology really represents an exciting step forward for folks looking at how they can embrace that to go faster, the accuracy, those type of things. So that's great. Thank you. So Dan Davidson, another question here. There's a lot of different types of readers out there that people use, specifically on the reader side. Could you go into some of the different type of readers that we support, maybe the brands a little bit, maybe there's some common models that people out there might be familiar with already that they might even have that they're using. Maybe just a little more detail on what we support today and how that looks.
Sure. So we really do support, a lot of the main RFID handheld reader manufacturers, so like your Zebra, TSL, TSC, Bluebird. And so a lot of those devices will be supported, especially around, Zebra TSC. And then we're also stepping up our Honeywell support as well. So the idea is, people have a large number of devices. There's a large number of manufacturers. We're working kind of through an iterative process to make sure that we're covering as many of those as possible, especially as new flagship models come out from these manufacturers. We want to say that we have support for those. So we've kind of built in a program to continuously validate and certify RFID and handheld devices to ensure that we're meeting needs of the customers where they are, especially if they already have devices in hand. We want to be able to support those and have track and trace work for them. So as we learn more, as we go through this and we talk to more customers and we see these come through, that'll kind of work itself out. But we are looking to have this kind of go over, the life cycle of the product essentially is going to be a long-term certification validation process. I don't think that'll ever stop. So we'll always be validating new devices to make sure they work with track and trace, to make sure that we are meeting you where you are and meeting you with the devices you have. So while we do kind of cover the largest manufacturers at this point, we will definitely continue to validate different devices as we move forward.
Great. Thank you, Dan. And actually, kind of pivoting just a little bit, we've got some great questions, and please encourage folks, if you've got questions, this is a great chance to talk directly to the people that shape the product for track and trace, right? And know it inside and out. And love to answer questions about this because we're quite excited about what track and trace represents for our customers. Dan Davidson, actually, another question for you, and maybe Dan Qualina, if you'd like to join in too on this one. Maybe this is a great question. Anthony had asked this. Setting the status of an item, right? This is a really cool concept of it can be location, but other details. One of the things that I think is exciting is being able to establish things like zones, status, all of those things to help people when they're looking at a dashboard, see certain things. Could you talk a little bit more about how track and trace does that, actually, how that is created, how that's set up, and how we help customers be able to use those capabilities?
Sure. So there is kind of a map functionality within track and trace, and that's kind of a main way you can see things through zones. So we can take in a map of your location. So we'll use a warehouse as an example because it'll be an easy one. But basically, 4 walls, your warehouse, it's split into zones already because you probably have a receiving area, shipping area, packing area. And so those can be defined within the system itself as those are zones that items can be assigned to. And so then as you're going through the items, as you're receiving them, when you're setting things like status and disposition, so things like destroyed, received, in progress, you can also flex those out. We will provide defaults for status, but they can be customized because people are going to have different nomenclature they use, different statuses they want to see. But as part of setting that status, you can also set the zone it's in. And then you can see it, okay, it goes from shipping to packing. When I intake this item, yes, it's what I expect. It's in good shape. Now I move it to packing, and now it'll be located in that zone. So if anyone looks up that item in the future, they'll know exactly where it's supposed to be. And then if it's not there, obviously with RFID functionality, you can quickly find where it went. But at least you know, one, where was it last? Who was the last person that scanned it in? And where it should be. So you're starting to get that information of the life cycle and history of the product that then you can change attributes on to make sure it's accurate as it moves through the process.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Actually, shifting gears just a little bit, had a question related to this, and we've seen a few more of these. And this is actually, Dan, calling it for you. There are a lot of different solutions out there over the years that have been developed for this. There's things like asset management systems, warehouse, all of these different, other management systems out there. Could you maybe share a little bit more, kind of contrasting how track and trace relates to those type of systems, in terms of what it delivers relative, say, to an asset management system or things like that that maybe other people that people have heard about in the past?
Yeah, Davidson, did you want to take this one? You had answered a question on it earlier. Would you like
Oh,
me
I'm
to?
sorry, I didn't see that you'd already answered that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dan, you want to do that?
So is this relating to like WMS, other like systems
Yeah.
essentially?
Well,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
and asset management systems, really where track and trace sits relative to those types of systems.
Sure. So from like a WMS perspective, it's really supposed to augment and work in parallel with the systems. It's not going to out and out replace that. This is supposed to be more of a lightweight, asset tracking tool that can augment those systems, provide additional data points, and kind of give you real-time access to that data. So we kind of look at it as working in parallel to with those as well. So, as we move the product forward and we look at things like, APIs for integrations, ERP systems will come into play at that point, but we don't anticipate out and out replacing those systems. They're supposed to kind of work in conjunction to kind of give you that whole picture into your ecosystem as well. And a lot of times these are going to be used for, smaller, lightweight things as we step up into larger implementations. So as I said, we expect them to kind of work together at that point. They look at similar pieces of information, but how they disseminate them and how you use them and how you action them will be slightly different. So really, they are kind of partners in crime to make sure you know exactly what you have, where you have it, and where it needs to be.
Fantastic. So maybe another question here for Dan Poliana.
Mhm.
When you when you think about how this works with BarTender, right? You talked a little bit about serialization, those type of things. I had a question here about cloud, on-prem, all of those. Can you tell a little bit more about how, what we support there and how that works? And, if it has to be cloud or has to be on-prem for customers to use this with BarTender?
Absolutely. So really what we're doing through BarTender, you're creating that label, you're encoding that tag. So either any flavor of BarTender really, irregardless of the tier you're at, as long as you can support the RFID encoding, ties in directly with BarTender Track and Trace. What we're able to do is be able to encode that information. We can leverage some of the APIs and systems we have through BarTender to be able to feed data in, or even just scanning some of those tags pulls that information into the track and trace system. And that allows you to then establish what your kind of base inventory is. So now you have those items within your track and trace system and you're ready to go. So we really tried to make this as simple as possible. Converting from barcode to RFID does require a few steps, but there's some great documentation out there to facilitate that. We've had customers who are curious on how to do some of the serialization side of that, and we have some tools to help with that as well. But really, we want to make this path as easy as possible for those wanting to be able to encode those tags and then be able to track those goods once that tag is attached to that good across those operations.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Dan. That's great. So I think we've had a lot of great questions been fantastic seeing these. We've addressed quite a few of them. I guess, maybe one more question for the both of you. I'd like to, kick this around a little bit before we wrap up today. And maybe, pick one of these, I guess. And we'll start with Dan Davidson, first of all. Is there a particular capability of track and trace that you think really just jumps out as something that can make a difference for customers? Or are there some early customers we've already worked with so far that really, to you, illustrate the impact track and trace can have for organizations that take advantage of it?
Yeah, I think I can probably answer that a little bit two ways. I mean, the coolest feature to me is kind of being able to Geiger your items. We've seen that kind of work in practice with a customer that had, bins of spare parts essentially, and they could never really find them. They were just segmented into aisles. And so that sped it up a little bit when they were looking for those, but they were still spending a ton of time. They just had a lot of stuff. And so they segmented it further to bays within items, and it just didn't give them the benefit they were needing. And it was basically, how much smaller can we make this area to make this accurate? And then by tagging it with RFID and using track and trace, and that took them seconds at that point. They just walked down the aisle they knew it was in, and then they hit the Geiger button. And now what would be digging through part buckets took them 30 seconds to know exactly which bay it was in. So that was a huge one. As far as customers, we did work with one. They had a lot of IT items that they were containing in 3 different locations. And because of the number and the manual nature of how they were doing inventory, they were doing it once a year because it took essentially 3 months to inventory all their items. So people would take stuff out of there and it was supposed to be assigned to somebody, but since they were only doing this every 9-ish months, they just disappeared and they couldn't really account for it. So we were able to give them the ability to do inventory every 2 weeks, which drastically reduced the time they were spending on it and drastically increased their accuracy of where those items are and should be. So not only saved them a ton of man hours and time, but also gave them the benefit of knowing with that 100% accuracy what they have and where it is. So they went from something that was extremely manual and time intensive to something that is automated and very quick. So that to me was a huge win, and like things that we were trying to solve with product.
Great example. Yeah, I would agree. When people see the ability to Geiger something and be able to find it really quickly, look at a map, know where to go, then zoom in on it, find it quickly. I agree. That's probably one of the more eye-opening capabilities that track and trace provides. So, and thanks, a great customer example. Dan, Colin, I'll hand it over to you if there's anything you'd like to add to that from your perspective, and then we'll wrap things up. Yeah.
You bet. So, for companies that really want to be able to make a very quick return on investment and being able to see that value quickly, there's a few key things that really stand out to me. We have some companies that have very high value items. So whether that's, something big like an airplane wing, or something like a luxury good, a very expensive good, being able to make sure that you know where every one of those items is at all times saves money. So being able to track those high value items, that's a very easy business case to be able to show. You can reduce loss or make it faster to find those items. And then the other side of things, what is your existing process today? What are your existing systems today? If you are using pen and paper, if you're using Excel, this system in track and trace can dramatically accelerate and open up how you are tracking things to make it so that there's better visibility across your organization. There's automatic management of what's going on, and you can have much better workflows. So those to me are the two things. If you want to see very quick value, if you're moving from pen and paper or a simplistic view such as a spreadsheet, or if you have high value items, no brainer, take a look at this system. We can help you.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you, Dan. And Dan, it's been great getting a chance to talk about this with folks today. Really appreciate all the details in terms of what the product's capable, the benefits. I think, again, know what you have, be able to find it when you're looking for it, and be able to generate reports really quickly and easily so that you can make sure anybody that needs to understand that has access and visibility into what you're doing day in, day out. So with that, thank you guys for joining today and sharing some great insights about track and trace. For everybody that joined us today, thank you. We really appreciate you making time to learn more about track and trace. We think, as we all, I think, mentioned, it's a great time and opportunity for you to look at ways that you can transform the way you do your business using this great new capability from BarTender software. A quick reminder, you'll be getting a link to a video of this when we wrap up. And we have just a few questions after this in a survey. We care about your opinion, we care about your thoughts, and to know a little bit more about you. So please take just a couple minutes and answer those questions. And remember, if you would like to either get a demonstration to get a little bit more deeper feel for how track and trace works and could apply to your environment, please let us know and we can help facilitate that. And we would love to put you in touch with a partner or a reseller partner that could help you identify the possibility of track and trace and how to scope it to your environment and get started right away. With that, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day and have a great rest of your week. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.